Let's go to that. Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries and its allies today left their policy parameters unchanged. Oil prices fell by more than 3%. I showed you that earlier. As the Joint Members Monitoring Committee, the GMMC, decided to hold all previous decisions and agreements as Saudi Arabia and Russia confirmed their unilateral output cutback into the end of this year. In the meantime, the ongoing high-profile ADIPEC Energy Summit and exhibitions, which started on Monday, will be rounding off tomorrow in Abu Dhabi. Let's bring in some industry insights and perspectives into this latest developments. My guest on this is Kola Karim. He's the Group Managing Director and CEO at Shoreline Natural Resources. So thank you for coming through tonight from Abu Dhabi. Thank you. Good evening. It's about 10 p.m. there in Abu Dhabi. So we thank you for staying late for this conversation. Let's start with OPEC Plus, holding its oil policy through to the end of the year. Was this surprising to you?
No, thank you, Bosin, for inviting me. It was not a surprising move at all, because all the OPEC Plus members want to keep prices the way they are, and that is high. So the voluntary cost still remains 1 million barrels from Saudi Arabia, 300,000 barrels a day from Russia. Again, that helps to keep the market firm. The market reaction today was expected. Look, there is inflation going on all over the world. Supply is really, really tight. And we see this as a short-term measure. The shocks that went down today, we see the prices at a rebound again.
Oh, so where does this hold decision by OPEC leave frontier oil producers such as Nigeria, Angola, and others on the continent here?
Look, I think what Nigeria and the likes of Angola, mainly the African producers who have been laggards the last couple of years due to different types of varying problems. Nigeria, as an example, is security and lack of investment. What is clear is oil prices are at all-time high. Nigeria needs to belt up, focus on the business in trying to increase production, focus on driving that. And I think OPEC is really not going to be against Nigeria increasing its quota in as much as we can produce that quota.
But what would it mean for oil prices? Of course, we're seeing those of you who are in the oil and gas industry practitioners, I'm sure you'll be weighing what this latest decision to hold all parameters to the end of the year, and Saudi Arabia and Russia looking not convinced that they need to stop the supply or this output cut back unilaterally. This looks like we're going into 2024 with those decisions.
Look, what we are seeing is to show up, everyone is enjoying very high oil prices. And what is clear is the major producers in OPEC Plus wants to keep prices high. And in turn, if it needs to cut additional production back, they will do it. And from the next meeting in November, if the prices go below 80, we're going to see additional cutbacks to shore up the prices, keep the price at 90 in the short term.
But what level of prices do you think the market really needs, by the way, to support frontier producers in Africa, for example, like Nigeria?
I think $80 marker is a good profitable number. But look, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what the price is, be it 80, 90, even 120. If countries like Nigeria are not producing their allocated quotas, not to talk of asking for additional increase, then we've got a problem coming. And if you look at most of the frontier producers like Nigeria, Angola, majority of the foreign exchange earnings of our economy depends on oil. So we need to brace up, double up our efforts, focus our efforts, concerted efforts in making sure we increase production so we could be in the money in the short term.
But again, you are there in Abu Dhabi for the ADIPEC conference and exhibitions. Are these oil prices, oil production, part of the issues in the global industry being flagged at this summit? The OPEC Secretary General Al-Kahir spoke on Monday at the opening of this particular summit. What are you putting together? What are the key issues being flagged here by industry big names from around the world meeting there in Abu Dhabi?
The key dynamics, the key messaging is decarbonization is real. The other language is net zero. But what is more important and critical that I'm taking away from all the different major producers and oil countries in the world today that's represented here, and I believe you me, everyone's here, all the majors are here, is we're not relenting in oil production. It is called, at the end of the day, net zero, and net zero does not mean no oil or no additional oil production. It only means we need to increase focus on renewables to catch up with the equivalent amount of oil production to balance out the market. I'll tell you something I heard today, which Nigeria should take into consideration in redoubling our efforts. UAE's focus in the next 24 months is actually doubling up its efforts to increase in production to 5 million barrels a day. So it tells you it should send the right message to countries like Nigeria. We need to take it seriously. We need to be serious. We have 37 to 40 billion barrels of 2P reserves that we need to energize and bring up to the market in the short term and the shortest time possible.
Give me just about a minute or less on decarbonizing for Africa. What's the pathway for us?
Look, the reality is Russia-Ukraine has shown from the Europeans that decarbonization is not a one-stop shop. If you remember, they never accepted that gas is a transition fuel. All of a sudden, Russia-Ukraine happened, and gas is now a transition fuel. This reality is what countries like Nigeria should take as a waving flag, utilizing our 210 TCF of gas reserves, monetizing it in a market that's ready to accept it, take it in, like Europeans who needs it, in doubling up our efforts, and that is focusing on LNG, additional LNG trains in Nigeria, and that is where we need to focus to bring in the money that Nigeria needs, the foreign exchange that Nigeria needs.
Very interesting conversation. Thank you so much. The conference today at ADIPEC ends tomorrow. Thank you so much, Kola Karim, the Group Managing Director and CEO at Shola Natural Resources. We appreciate your insight as always. Do have a great evening.